Part 2. In Part 1, I had a look at the many issues that plagued Season 5's 12-episode run of Gotham. In this video, I am offering solutions, and while it's obviously too late to fix the show, here's my own concept that I feel would have delivered a more fitting end to Gotham. Outsider input is welcome, so feel free to contribute in the comments section. Now, before I begin this, I do wish to point out that what I'm doing here is all well and good retrospectively, but I am by no means trying to say that I could have done a better job than the professionals. Ultimately, they had a lot less time to think of all this with strict deadlines and demands, so understand that my intention here is not to belittle the hard work of honest people, but simply done to flex those creative muscles, for they are the only muscles a little beta boy like me have. So, sit back, relax, subscribe, and enjoy. No, but in all seriousness, enjoy. Feedback is welcome. So my idea is something I call the relay format. What I'm suggesting here is a change up in format. Each episode is told from the perspective of a fully formed Batman villain or other character, and the flashbacks would focus on their formative stories in No Man's Land, which led them to become the character that they are today. The stories would follow a common story thread focusing on the mystery of the Black Bat that emerged from No Man's Land, and how the characters have to step up their game once he came about on the scene. The first episode is told from the perspective of Jim Gordon, and what we establish here is that Gotham has basically become hell. With survival being extremely difficult, countless innocents have died both of starvation and of murder, and being caught up in the crossfire of the gang wars that are between the different factions of Gotham. We'd follow a pretty similar story to the real version of the season opener, in that Bruce needs to attend to a crippled Selina with Scarecrow standing in his way. As well as this, we'd have the same story where Penguin kills Tabitha Galavan, with Jim Gordon attending at the scene. This establishes the best parts of the real Season 5 with Barbara Keane's redemption arc ready to play out in the background of the forthcoming episodes. The episode ends with Bruce disappearing and Scarecrow being attacked by the shadow of a black bat. Jim Gordon attends the scene, declaring that he thinks his job is either about to get a lot easier or a lot harder, with Scarecrow lay bloodied on the floor. We never really get any clear glimpse of Batman at all, just a shadow with wings pretty much. I do want to commit to the series' mantra of not having Batman actually appear until the very final shot. I really want to keep in with the producer's sort of vision of what this show would be. Because if I betray that, it just becomes nothing better than fanfiction. I mean, to me, this is fanfiction, what you're watching. It's glorified fanfiction. I hope you're happy with yourself. I hope you feel clean. The second episode would be told from Scarecrow's perspective, as the episode opens after a 10-year time jump, with a fully developed Scarecrow causing chaos. We flash back to his No Man's Land years, which take place before the events of the prior episode, with Scarecrow caught up in the gang war. We tell the story that led to his first encounter with the Batman, and from there on we see him working hard to become the horrifying force of nature that we know him as today. In this story, Scarecrow encounters Mr. Freeze, who would go on to follow the same formula as Scarecrow in the next episode, until we piece together a full narrative on the war in No Man's Land. This is what I call the relay format, as from episode to episode, it's almost like the different characters are passing one baton to another. Here is how I would map out the character stories across the course of the 12 episodes, but to be honest, I think you could do it in 10. Episode 1 is told from Jim Gordon's perspective, Episode 2, Scarecrow, Episode 3, Mr. Freeze, Episode 4, Selina Kyle, Episode 5, Poison Ivy, Episode 6, The Riddler, Episode 7, Barbara Keane, involving her pregnancy, Episode 8, Penguin, Episode 9, Bullock, Episode 10, Lee Tompkins, Episode 11, Bruce Wayne, and Episode 12, the finale. In Episode 9, Bullock finally catches the Black Bat and its Man-Bat, but we'll see in later episodes that this is obviously not the Black Bat that's been terrorizing the criminals in Gotham. This is a bait and switch. It would both sort of deliver on the promise of Man-Bat at the end of Season 4, but also throw the audience as well as the GCPD off of the scent as to who this Black Bat is, as well as opening the potential for a ton of fan theories as to who did what in regards to Batman and Man-Bat. In Episode 10, the story is told by Jim Gordon once again, but the story is about a newlywed Lee Tompkins protecting a redeemed Barbara Keane so she can give birth to Barbara Gordon, in the midst of the No Man's Land Gotham. No need to bring in Bane, the city is nightmarish enough with that war going on, and it is told quite late in the episode in the narration that Lee Tompkins died of an illness within the 10-year time gap. I feel like this gives some kind of solemn sort of stakes to Gotham, which I feel like it desperately needed in that final season. It's all well and good you have bombastic action, but just a little something to sort of ground it. I think that would make it far more investable. Plus, in most incarnations of the character, Jim Gordon is a single father, so I don't like the idea that him and Lee Tompkins broke up. That's the thing, is they really do leave it to your imagination in the real show. In episode 11, we begin the concluding chapter. It takes place in the earliest days of No Man's Land, before the emergence of the Black Bat, and the episode tells the story of Ace Chemicals. It's pretty much the Ace Chemicals story we got, as it's told from the perspective from Bruce Wayne. So, it's our chance to sort of showcase Jeremiah Valeska's final transformation before the big finish. And then the finale is told from the perspective of Gotham, as the criminal underworld, the GCPD, and citizens alike all brace themselves for a nightmarish new threat, the Joker. Oh, but you can't call him the Joker because of Warner Brothers! Fine, we'll just call him Jay then in that case. Remember when Joke Man was a thing? Nobody knows who this ghoulish clown is or where he came from, not even the Joker himself. In this episode, it is revealed to Alfred and the audience that the Black Bat is Bruce Wayne, aka the Batman, and that Bruce is aware that he's facing something truly horrifying with the Joker. The Joker hunts down Barbara Gordon, killing Barbara Keane in the process, and drags Barbara Gordon to Ace Chemicals. Similarly to in the actual finale, the episode ends with Batman defeating the Joker, and like in the actual finale, Batman is not revealed until the very end, where he stands atop a rooftop when Jim Gordon announces that the Batman is a friend of Gotham to Bullock and Alfred. The difference is, rather than that hideous VFX shot, we have a shot similar to Batman Mask of the Phantasm, where it's a static shot where Batman looks upon his city from a building as the camera pans over the city. And rather than cut back to Batman, we just hold that final shot on Gotham City. I think that's the best idea, because at the end of the day, it's Gotham. It's not a Batman show, it's Gotham, so Gotham should be the final shot, in my opinion. Would Bruce Wayne still be portrayed by David Mazouz? I feel he deserves it, but it would depend on how convincingly they could age him up with makeup. Failing that, recast for this final episode. You have to do what's right for the story at the end of the day. I feel like this relay format making use of flashbacks was a good way to showcase all of the characters to where they are today while telling their final formative stories. It means that each character gets a fair share. The thing is, I think very few of us are willing to actually admit to this, but I think in Gotham, the Joker was a much more exciting idea than the Batman himself. And by the time we'd reached the finale of the real Season 5, the general main staple cast felt pretty played out by this point. In having a Joker-centric season finale with Cameron Monaghan and David Mazouz at the forefront would guarantee us a finale to remember. Sort of like a, it all comes down to this sort of a feeling. I feel like this concept could really weave No Man's Land into a final origin for the other characters, and it would allow some actual narrative focus, as well as the killing of Barbara in the series finale, which would give the Joker some actual sense of impact, by having him kill off a character that's a mainstay and synonymous with Gotham's identity as a show. This is the Gotham universe giving way to the Batman universe, a far harsher world as the villains step up and others just don't make the cut. It's an enemy that's synonymous with Gotham, meeting her destruction at the hands of the most well-known Batman villain of all time. There is really no better metaphor. Now, I know that I complained about the Joker's lack of narrative weight in Season 5, and that in this concept he's now only in 2 episodes as opposed to the handful that he was in the real version. But in these 2 episodes, he holds a lot more narrative weight. Jeremiah was the last enemy that Bruce Wayne would take down before becoming Batman. As well as this, the Joker would be the villain that leads us into the harsher world of Batman's Gotham as we know it. There is no better enemy to do this. And to be honest, he'd probably end up having more screen time if the finale focused on him as the main villain. Having Lee Tompkins die of an illness would give a hard grounding to the character of Jim Gordon, a sobering event for a more bombastic take on the character, to grow into the more mature commissioner that we know and love, who is a noble single father. The problem with Jim Gordon in Gotham's real finale is he feels dwarfed by his circumstances, and ultimately, he just kind of bows into Batman, and looks up to him. Jim Gordon needs to be Batman's equal, and we need to see the road to that. Giving Jim Gordon this weight to carry really levels the scales between Batman and Jim Gordon. I guess the Riddler and Penguin should obviously have some kind of a role in the finale, as they are staples of the show. So perhaps they could socialize with each other and discuss the Joker before and after his defeat, and how this maniac is threatening order in their fair city and going to drag the place right back into No Man's Land. Also, for Pete's sake, ditch the fat suit on Penguin, and liquid latex some wrinkles on his face or something. Just maybe put a couple of grey streaks in Jim Gordon's hair, keep the moustache and give him the glasses, just make the characters look a bit different overall, if you can't convince us otherwise. I'd rather this than "It's been 10 years" being the opening sentence of every single scene is ridiculous. But it should be so difficult to age them up, as other shows and other budgets have succeeded at it. An alternative idea that I had was if Jeremiah did keep his memories, actually reveal that he knows Batman's identity. Do something with this. Have a one-to-one scene of Jeremiah talking to Batman in the darkness at some stage, where Jeremiah sees Batman as Bruce's way of staying in contact with Jeremiah, and have Jeremiah honor this out of a sense of love, sort of a, okay then, Batman sort of a thing. It would give the audience something to actually talk about, and I could kind of forgive Jeremiah's arc a little more because it actually went somewhere productive and had some kind of a twist that it was committed to. In the real Season 5, we're left wondering just how the hell Bruce Wayne ever survives in Gotham, with virtually every villain knowing who he is. Season 5 is fundamentally broken when it comes to the Bruce Wayne and Batman secret identity dynamic. Ultimately, this story would suggest the beginning of the Dark Knight, but it would also signal the end of the Gotham that we know. This is something that there was an attempt to do in the actual finale, with Bruce Wayne's plans for a new Gotham, but it was only really exercised in some expositional dialogue, as opposed to actually doing anything narratively or thematic with it, and I believe this is partly because the massive time crunch of 45 minutes to tell their finale. My relay concept makes the entire season the finale, and one big story, as opposed to just a few disjointed no man's land tales, a load of filler and a tacked on finale. It gives the story some room to actually breathe, and makes the episodes count for the characters, and the characters and story serve each other. Another thing is that it would actually address a criticism that many have with the show. What's compelling about the Batman stories is that his presence is what causes the criminal underworld to step up in such a way. It's what makes Batman's adversaries as dangerous and clever as they are. They've got a heck of an opponent to be up against. In showing that these villains got even worse once the Batman came onto the scene, it puts his criticism to bed once and for all, unlike the actual finale which saw Riddler and Penguin reduced to gibbering wrecks and the Joker defeated by having things thrown at him. In Gotham's final season, it was only fuel to the fire of what I would consider unfair criticism leveled at seasons 1 to 4, and ultimately it devalues the character arcs with this ending. That's not to say that this has retroactively ruined those seasons. I'm quite happy leaving the ending to my own imagination if that's the case. And that would be only if I weren't willing to accept Season 5 as the ending, but to be honest, Season 5 isn't the kind of character assassination that retroactively destroys the entire show, so it's not the kind of thing that would necessarily need to be retconned. It's acceptable, but to be honest, that's all it is. The ending of the show left so many questions open, more so than it answered. This is most definitely from its desire to be seen as more of a pilot than a finale. Season 5 needed to be treated as the final curtain call for a beloved cast of characters, but instead they stalled and just pretended the ending was a separate thing. I get the feeling they wanted to end Gotham on an optimistic and happy note, which just feels weird to me, as the show's always been very tongue-in-cheek. It's always had this little attitude and this twisted nature. Why Season 5 opted to be more of a hero's journey sort of a tale, I'll never be able to truly wrap my head around. It's just such a betrayal of everything the show's really been about. I know it sounds mean, but who ever actually watched Gotham for Jim Gordon and Bruce Wayne? Sure, they're important, they're the heart of this show, but did anyone here ever tune in solely for the hero characters, the sensible ones? No, you tune in for the villains. You know, they were the focus of the show from Season 2 through 4, and it worked just fine like that. Basically, the short version is, just don't do whatever, then stick a finale on the end of your show, because that's just kind of a callous way to bow out. The thing is, I don't question that the intentions here were good. And that ultimately, while it's easy for me to come up with this concept after the fact, the producers and writers will have likely had a selection of scripts already fully ready to shoot, and their ideas set in stone before they were even aware of the series' renewal for a shorter final season. The odds are they had to very hastily work around this, and while it may only take a moment to write a video like this, it takes much longer time to write just one script, let alone 12. I think that may be why so much of Gotham Season 5 felt like unfinished drafts, but the truth is I can only review what I received, not what I was supposed to receive, or what I would have received had there been more time. Everything was going against Season 5 due to a lack of love from Fox, Warner Brothers, and sadly some bizarre reason, the audience viewing figures. And ultimately it was those who loved the show the most, be it the production team, the cast and crew, or the fans who just stuck with the show. They're the ones who paid the price, as this brilliant show had to end with a screeching halt. I think the most painful thing about it is to see all of that potential squandered, but also wondering why certain decisions were made. In spite of this, I'm still grateful for the show that we got, and have the utmost respect and admiration for all working on it. They delivered us 4 spectacular seasons of television, just with a poorly conceived ending, which, to be honest, is standard fare for almost all great shows, but certainly not an excuse. What do you guys think? Comment below and discuss, and as always, if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more like it, don't forget to hit subscribe, hit the like button, and check out the description below for links to the Patreon if you wish to support the channel, and to the Discord if you want to come chat with me and some friends. Wow, I think that's it. I think I've finally said all there really is to be said about Season 5, save reviewing just singular episodes, but to be honest, I don't really see the point of that. I mean, it depends if you guys want it, but ultimately, like, what I make on this channel is kind of just what I want to make, and I mean, I do keep you guys in mind and everything, but it goes in its own direction. Well, either way, stay tuned, because later tonight, or maybe tomorrow, I'm planning on releasing the first trailer for The Marvelous Tales of Spider-Man, which is a collaboration between me and Tough Cookie Media, and we basically made our own Spider-Man fan shorts. So do check that out. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and have a great day.